Hi everyone, Bill Rentschler in the 1011 Now streaming studio. Hope everyone is having a nice Monday afternoon. It's Monday. It's a little bit later than we normally would be talking on a Monday, but that doesn't mean that we're not, because we are. We are still talking with Josh Planos from the Better Business Bureau. Josh, again, we remarked before we got on here that both of our Mondays aren't terrible.
Pretty good. I would say that's about as good as you could hope for a Monday. The weather's fantastic out there, so we're back to I think reasonably fall temperatures. So there's a lot to enjoy right now.
Yeah, I think again, if you can say your Monday's not terrible, that I think that means just you're playing with house money at that point. So all good things. But we're gonna kind of bring people down a little bit. Josh, you picked a little bit of a bummer of a topic for us to talk about on this Monday. An important topic, a very important topic, and probably the most important topic of any household, and that is budgets.
Yeah, consumer budgeting doesn't necessarily begin at the start of the year, I think, as a lot of folks might assume. Traditionally, for some, it begins right about now because you've got holiday shopping in the not too distant future. Folks are, of course, professionally considering budgeting this time of year for their various departments. So naturally, those conversations seep into our personal lives. There are tax considerations, there's bonus income, there's that fresh start, of course, looming on January 1st. So there are a lot of reasons, I think, why folks start budgeting in the winter. And luckily, we have a few tips to consider as you navigate those decisions, even if this is something that folks try to avoid for the vast majority of the calendar.
Like the plague, Josh. Like the plague. And I should say at the outset here, there are we are not endorsing or doing anything for any one product, app, way of doing things. I know people that will live and die by the Dave Ramsey debt snowball method, and if you do anything else, you're doing it wrong. These are just going to be good tips across the board for anyone, regardless of if you're a Dave Ramsey fan or if you're doing something different.
Yeah, that's really the whole, I guess, theme of today, right? Is that you don't want to create a system that doesn't work for you. And there are a lot of different ways by which you can navigate these conversations that make them digestible, that make them consistent, that make them stand the test of time and not something you just discard after a month to 2 months into a new year. So we certainly want these tips to be useful however you choose to apply them, but make sure that they work for you and your system.
100%. All right, so Josh, I guess we're going to eat an elephant. We got to do it one bite at a time here. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. What do you got for us?
Yeah. Tip number one, calculate your income, especially after taxes. The first step to creating a budget is to calculate your monthly net income after taxes. How much you are actually bringing home, how much you have to spend, how much you can save. Taking a look at your income provides that clear picture of the money that you have available to spend and save after accounting for those mandatory deductions. So, start with the most important figure, which is the amount of money that you have left over once it's, been deposited into your account.
Yeah, that's it's obviously probably the most important thing. Know how much money you do have to play with. Again, I know my wife and I try and sit down every week and we try and do this. Be like, okay, what bills do we have coming out this week? Kind of get this. If it's in the account, we kind of like, well, it's not really in the account because it's already been earmarked this week and it's on the way out of the door.
Yeah, without a doubt, I have the same conversations with my wife. My wife teaches financial literacy, ironically, so she is always having these conversations with me at home about the ways in which we can better bucket certain costs. And that's actually really the second tip that I have is to track and categorize your spending based on how it is that you are spending. If some folks, right, prefer to include this in an app on their phone. Some folks have computer software specific to categorize spending. Some people just use a notebook to jot down those expenses, but keeping track of your spending is absolutely critical. It helps you see where you spend your money rather than where you think you are spending your money. And categorizing, I think, is really helpful because bucketing those transactions based on necessities will help you keep track of this all in a way that's digestible, because otherwise it's just going to be a series of transactions and it's going to be background noise in no time.
And it can be alarming when
Yes.
you actually sit down and be like, okay, we spent this much on going out to eat this month. And you may think, oh, it's 20, 30, 40 bucks a pop, it's whatever. But by the end of the month, you may have been like, we spent $500 going out to eat. And if that's a normal month, then you're talking about we're spending 6 grand a year to go out to eat. And so, it can be frightening. I'm speaking from personal experience here. It can be frightening to categorize these transactions to figure out how much you are spending your money in one place, but super important to know it.
Yeah, in the aggregate, these transactions can be quite alarming, but the best way through is one step at a time. And the first step is, of course, to ensure that you have things appropriately categorized such that you know which areas of your life, maybe to tune down a little bit if needed, and which ones, you have maybe a little bit more wiggle room. Another tip that we have is to prepare a realistic budget with your budgeting system. It's one thing to say, I'm not going to spend a single dollar. It's another thing to know that that's, a near impossibility for a lot of us. You can set realistic budgets once you know where you are spending that money. There are all sorts of rules out there. A lot of experts recommend that 50-30-20 rule, where you allocate 50% of your income for your needs, 30% for wants, and use 20% to pay down debt or to save. Budgeting systems can also be very effective. And, we mentioned at the top that you want to make sure that this is applicable for you. For example, some folks like cash-based systems that can help curb overspending. Some folks like zero-based budgets where they're accounting for every single dollar that they earn each month. That's, of course, really great for those of us who really love to plan. But finding a system that works for you is a smart play, because you can't just itemize the transactions and earmark them. You want to make sure that there's an actual system in place.
And it can be really tough too. Again, not everyone is necessarily making the same thing every 2 weeks. If you're an hourly worker, again, depends on how many hours you got in that pay period. Again, if you're a salaried employee, things get maybe a little bit easier because you know exactly how much you're going to have coming in every 2 weeks. But and with the budget, like you said, Josh, there's no one wrong way and there's no one right way. Again, like you said, again, some people have my sister, again as an example, is a Dave Ramsey disciple, and when they went through, and kudos to them, they paid off a lot of debt, but there was a couple years there where they didn't do anything with any. They didn't go out with friends, they didn't go out with family, because it wasn't in their budget. And so again, there's no right way, there's no one wrong way.
Without a doubt. And everybody's situation is a little bit different. You mentioned, every 2 weeks you kind of have money coming in. Some people are getting paid, once a month. Some people are, if they're independent contractors, it might be even less frequent. So you want to make sure that, some of these rules are generic enough such that you can apply them based on your personal, situation. We have another tip that is universal, and it's important to pay down debt by paying your bills on time. If you have a credit card or other debts, you can include repayment in your actual budget. And one method is to first pay off the credit card or loan with the highest interest rate. Another is to pay off the smallest balance first. So you get that greater sense of accomplishment and use that as motivation. Again, use whichever method works best for you. But the important thing is to start chipping away at your debt. You can also call your credit card company and ask if they will lower your interest rate. You would be surprised at the amount of conversations that they're willing to have in this space. Some lenders will agree to keep you from transferring your debt to another lender with better terms. And even just shaving off a few percentage points off your rate can save thousands in the aggregate and help you pay down your balances faster.
And I mean, it's certainly tougher maybe now with the way that interest rates are. But there are things like credit card consolidation loans and things like that. That if it's something that you're struggling with, that again, I can attest to personally. My wife and I have used them in the past, and it's nice because you go from a credit card that's got a 20% something interest rate, and then you can knock almost double digits off that interest rate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without a doubt. And again, a lot of these conversations do not happen if you don't pick up the phone and initiate them. Folks, certainly through marketing and what have you, will reach out, but you want to make sure that you are initiating the conversations that you are capable of initiating. And there are entire, verticals at some of these companies dedicated to having that conversation. But it's important that you pick up the phone and start it.
Obviously, paying down debt probably one of the biggest things. Again, and likely for most people, again, you're not gonna. It's not going to be a quick process. It's not going to happen in a month or 2 months. It's going to happen over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years. But as long as you're doing it and it's in your budget, it does happen. And the sooner you can get it in the budget and get it paid off, then that frees your money up to do fun things with it. One of the fun things you can do is contribute to your retirement plan.
How fun does that sound,
I
right?
know, right?
This is the opportunity. If you're interested in the setting and forgetting it category, this is for you. Contributing to your retirement is important. Ensure that you are contributing enough to your 401k plan to get that full matching contribution from your employer if they offer that. If you do get a raise at your job, it might be worth putting some of that extra money into your retirement account. You survived on that income for this long, so presumably you won't miss that extra cash. It might not be as fun as spending it or going on a family trip, but your retirement account would certainly greatly benefit if you put some of that money away. This is bonus season, so of course that's something to consider as well. But retirement is absolutely important to save for. These tips again are broadly about budgeting, but you can apply them in various ways. Retirement being a very important one.
Future you will thank you
Yes.
by contributing to your 401k. And I know it can be really hard. Again, I think especially for folks in our generation, Josh, where it's like, what is Social Security going to look like, you know, 40, 50 years down the line, or however many years down the line. So that's why it's extra important to make sure your 401k is fully stocked. And again, you can go into a whole number of different avenues with 401k, whether it's traditional 401k, a Roth 401k, things like that. These are conversations that folks should be having, probably with a financial professional. And we are not necessarily financial professionals.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. I would say our last tip is to save for big items. You're going to have a lot of those coming up, presumably in the next few months. Big purchases like vacations or holiday gifts for your whole family can easily blow a budget out of the water. And while it's important to celebrate these opportunities, it's also important to avoid going into debt for these expenditures by saving up ahead of time and only spending what you were able to save. A lot of banks and credit unions offer savings clubs that might help in this way. But the hope, right, is that the lessons you apply today will make good, in the next few months, but also this time next year, right? You want to make sure that you come back next year and know that you have a little bit more money to spend, especially with holiday shopping on the horizon. But the only way you can do that really is to properly be budgeting throughout the year.
My wife and I, again, obviously, we have our 7-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I just this last week kind of cashed out our savings account for our Christmas shopping for both the boys. So it's been an accumulation throughout the year, and it is super nice because again, you put it in your budget, and by this time of year, you got a pretty good chunk of change, and that has been earmarked for this, and that's when spending your money can be really fun, is when you've earmarked for it, you've budgeted for it, and you got, I don't know, you got $500, you got $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is, and you get to go blow it all at Target on Christmas gifts for your kiddos. It's a lot of fun.
Without a doubt. I think the whole idea behind consumer protection segment is ensuring that you have a plan, right? When you answer that phone call, when you receive unsolicited communication, when you come up with a budgetary plan for you and your loved ones. Budgets are at the core of a lot of the conversations that we navigate, certainly at the Better Business Bureau. But it's important, even if it might not be top of mind, or a lot of folks might have not as much interest in it as certainly we would hope. But budgeting is absolutely foundational to a lot of the conversations that we navigate in the consumer protection space. So now is a great time to have that conversation with either yourself or with your loved ones. If there's a financial planner that you're looking for, certainly we would recommend going to our website to look up, who's credible, who's trustworthy, who's worth your consideration. But having these conversations is really important, not just right now, but year round.
And add to that again with the sheer number of apps and other things that are out there. I'm sure you guys have a ton of information on maybe what is, kind of good, better, best in terms of customer service and reputation and things like that, because it is obviously one of the markets that is just flooded with things to look at, different apps, different ways of doing it, and potentially with all of these, you are giving access to your bank account and the transactions that you are making through your bank account, which I know what you would say, Josh. You got to be careful with that.
Without a doubt, this is at the heart of your financial life is are these accounts for a lot of folks, the folks who are banked, in our communities, and you want to make sure that the company that you are considering transacting with or engaging with is worth your time, is worth your consideration, is proven to be trustworthy. I'd like to think that that's why our website exists. So certainly, make sure that you do a little bit of research before you, willingly fork over some of this information to someone who might not have your best interest in mind.
Josh, it's a tough conversation, but it's a good conversation to have. It can be very difficult. It can certainly strain a lot of marriages, relationships, whatever it might be. But again, being on top of your financial house is one of the best things that you can possibly do. So appreciate the tips as always today. Is there anything else you want to squeeze in here before we let everyone go for the day?
Happy shopping season. I know that there's a lot of online shopping, in-person shopping that folks are navigating these days. I hope it's as stress-free a situation as it can possibly be for each and every one of you.
And you can go back to our segment we did over the summer on Amazon Prime Day just for some helpful tips and hints on making sure you're not getting scammed out of your money.
What a callback. This guy is a professional.
Hey, you know what? We've done 15 of these now, and I remember most of them. All right, Josh, I appreciate your time again, as always. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next week, all right?
Sounds great. Thank you, Bill.
All right, that was Josh Planos with the Better Business Bureau. Again, appreciate his time. As always, part of our regularly scheduled Monday streaming segment, Consumer Safety Spotlight. We'll catch up with Josh again next Monday. He will undoubtedly have another great topic for us to talk about. So appreciate everyone for tuning in and for watching again today. As always, keep it tuned to 1011, both on air and online for all the latest news, weather, and sports.